A video I made years ago has a comment on it from 3 years ago, and someone decided to post under that, and also under the comment from 3 years ago, a bunch of statements. I'm going to just read what they said and not give I'll give partial context, but this is about the idea that you can go into court and look up really old definitions for words that are no longer the way the words are used, or the origin story for a word and then lie about it in court, and various other things where you would challenge the court by basically arguing the finer points of what a word meant or what a law originally meant. You might have seen examples of this even recently, where a person would sit there and basically bog down the court case that was against them, whether it be a parking ticket, unpaid taxes, it didn't matter. They would do this as a tactic years ago. What happened is this established case law that forbids you from doing that unless it's a really legitimate in-court controversy on the law. In many cases, that's perfectly valid, but the rest of them are people arguing the fine points of how many angels on the head of a pin. So let's move forward. We're going to do the comments from a day ago by someone I'm going to call the Fallen Angle. That's not the YouTube channel name. I'm going to be only referring to that. But this was posted under a 3-year-old comment. Most of this, however, was an independent posting. First statement that chronologically, I think, YouTube doesn't give very accurate timing on these comments. He contradicts everything. I'm assuming you're talking to me. Okay. And insulting the intelligence. We're going to see a mixture of what looks like perfectly done English language grammar, spelling stuff, and then stuff that I can't interpret it even if I try to. We'll see what we can go through here. The fact is, we are fighting with our courts and governments. That's a current status and has been for a long time in many, many governments. In the United States, virtually all legal systems and virtually all government entities have to allow for people to have redress. That means that the people in your state or city or county have the legal right, effectively, to overrule your representatives. Otherwise, they're not representatives, they're dictators. As for the court system, you have the right to redress through the courts. It's much more difficult because they establish it and base it on previous case law and laws that have been passed by your representatives on your behalf. In order to get around that, you have to have very hardcore petitioning to force each city, county, and then state to change their laws to contradict established law by deciding that a law needs to be gotten rid of. You can remove the requirement that you have to pay to have tags put on your car in the United States everywhere if every state does away with them and just says you have to have a smog test every once in a while and just have a piece of paper. Don't have to have any tags. All you have to have is the license plate to identify the individual car's ownership and the VIN number for quality control purposes and traceability and your ID. You can change all of this. You can even make it to where you don't have to have a driver's license, one of the biggest things people complain about. But you have to get off your dead ass and convince the majority of us, we the people, that that's okay. And you know what? It hasn't worked. So you're arguing with literally everybody else in the country because you don't want to have a driver's license or a license plate or tags. Sorry to simplify it, but that's the answer. Let's move on. And his country, I'm assuming you're from outside the United States, really no historically stolen country. God doesn't like ugly. Christian rant and U.S. We made laws so you don't overthrow us. This is the only truth spoke in whole video. I think this person is trying to make a synopsis of my video. I was doing a video, I've pretty much done the synopsis myself, of what the main point is. Someone claiming to be a judge isn't necessarily a judge. Someone claiming to have legal knowledge isn't necessarily a person with legal knowledge. I'm in a country that has over 100,000 laws, criminal or otherwise, that you can break. They can result in jail time or a fine or both. And most of you don't know what most of them are. And they're really hard to process. Some of them written in really old verbiage from the 1800s or Victorian era or whatever. But let's move on. WAPTEC. The words reality and actuality have similar meanings. And then this person goes into, quote unquote, the history of it going back to the Latin language. That's nice, but most of the definitions you're given are like, actuality is from the state of being actual. Yes, I understand that. That's also the current partial definition, but that's not explaining what the word actual means. Definitions in a dictionary that just refer to reusing the word to explain itself, that's actually kind of an in-joke about it. Actuality is often associated with the present moment and with concrete experiences. While both words, actuality and reality, refer to the state of being real or existing, reality is often used more broadly to refer to overall nature of the world, while actuality is more specific to the concrete and immediate aspects of our experience. I understand the subtlety. He goes on another tangent. I'll leave it below. But here we get to this person's conclusion. Again, some of this is written out in very good English, and some of it I barely can read. So the person's partial conclusion is, reality can be manipulated by those who control it. But reality is supposed to be the independent, real world. It's not manipulatable unless you alter the world around you. That's different. The reality that New York City exists can be changed if we just decide that it's called Rencroy or Yorktown or whatever you want to name it, and it suddenly changes its reality by changing its name, or just move all the buildings 10 miles to the east or something, or west or whatever. Actually, I think it would be west. East would be bad. That would be like in the middle. That would be Atlantis. It's the people you are talking shit to because there is not room, enunciation, or dictionary when you as public official has job to do. Again, grammar and spelling and stuff go off the rails a little here. Everything will be spell checked below just for readability, I guess. Okay. The actuality, what the actual life is showing. Okay, let's move on. My words don't matter in right and wrong. Okay. It's the judge's job to figure out if the law was broken by all parties involved. Pro tip. A judge is supposed to analyze whether or not a law or rule was broken or transgressed, which is more minor, but not necessarily of all parties involved. Actually, a judge is often restricted to only finding yes or no is their fault with the accused. The accuser cannot be found fault with unless it's grotesque. But let's go on. Including the officers, and if convicted, sent to the correction facility. Okay. And there's laws against false advertisements. Okay. I don't see anyone going to prison. Why? Because just like college, who have a employment after college rate, where is the return rate for prisoners? Are you talking about the recidivism rate? Okay, yes. When you have prisoners, specific varieties of crimes have almost no repeat offenders. Other crimes have massive repeat factor. What we've determined as a species is that throwing people in prisons or jails or whatever does or doesn't work, and that's a very complicated subject. I only know of one country that's got a ridiculously high success rate dealing with criminals. And those are countries where they just put them in a controlled facility, basically a city, where everybody's a prisoner, they can't leave, and they're just put through the mundane task of living every part of their life for years and years to come, being normal. Just normalizing a criminal by having them live a normal life and not letting them be able to commit a crime generally just kind of works it out of them. A lot of people who are criminals do it because they don't have a choice. If you just take away the impetus for them to have no choice in their own minds, they're okay. The majority of criminals are found to have a situational problem. The life has gotten out of control. And the rest of them have a mental or an attitude problem where they lack the skills to deal with reality. They just can't deal with it. Or they're just not trained. Educating people and making sure they have useful learning experiences generally keeps you from having criminals. That sounds like socialism. I call it having a society. I call it having a rational, non-miserable existence. But other than doing something as baseline as making it to where No Child Left Behind actually worked, The recidivism rate, if that's what you're talking about, in prisons is something you'd have to look up per incident. I do know that pickpockets have one of the highest success rates after being arrested and jailed. They generally just stop being pickpockets because it's a petty crime and they're put on probation for really long periods of time. But I don't know how to answer this because I can't read you well. Or the fact government is not on an actual contract but only on social contract. They are not legally obligated to uphold. Legal obligation implies that you can take them to court for breaking the rules that they have in place. They are under actual contract partially, but that contract is we fire them by voting. And unfortunately, people who are appointed by the people we elect have to be able to be removed by direct removal. Most cities, counties, and some states have a rule where you can take any person who's acting as an official and remove them. But you have to get a bunch of people to agree to it. Again, we the people. And yeah, okay, the social contract, which is not enforceable. Okay, let's move on. You talk all of that about a binary code. Man created the computer, not the other way around. Who's better because I give computers commands whenever you get through. I have a right to speak. Where's my right to government audience? You mean your right to redress with the government? That comes from going to your city council meeting or the county council meeting or having a representative in your state do it or doing petitioning. But if you're in a country you don't have that in, I can't help you because I can't. I need to communicate a language in a language that most don't understand because of our indoctrinating school system. Counterpoint. The school system's sucking ass doesn't change the fact that you're currently using the internet where you can literally teach yourself everything. I'm not kidding. You can look up how to do literally everything. There are a couple of countries that just looked up on the internet and built every single airplane the U.S. military has. All of them are government secrets, but they've already built them. Nothing is hidden. There is no obscuring. There is no occluding. You know, it teaches lies in school. Mistakes, Paul Bunyan style stories, I understand, but that's not actually how the world works. Again, unless you're taught never to look shit up on the net, I mean, they teach you not to contradict teacher, but literally no one listens to that. I'm sorry, I'm in the United States. I don't know where you are, but we're the most defiant population I know of besides frickin' Aussies or maybe the Scots. They're kind of running neck and neck with all of us, actually. Nobody gets indoctrinated that way. That's why our economy and well-being in this country sucks. Are you in the United States or not? I'm a conspiracy theorist, so go ahead, yell and say I'm crazy. Okay. You're crazy. Conspiracy theories are thought up by people who are in a vacuum of information, or they get just enough information that they try to extrapolate everything into either an extremely complicated or over a simplified way of doing things. And then when they find out they're wrong because people can double check what they say, they won't let go of a wrong assumption. But you're not crazy, you're just misled. By the way, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, most of the sovereign citizenship shit that I've been railing against was a scam done by people who died a long time ago. They did it to make money. That was never your best interests. Common sense destroys your laws and your freedom definition in this country. Not going to argue with that, but again, you have to go through the system to destroy it from within. No, I'm not saying cooperate or change it. I'm saying destroy it. Freedom is absence of constraint. Independence, the state of being free from the control of others. Choice, the ability to make decisions for oneself without external influence. No, without external coercion. Influence is supposed to be there. You're supposed to listen to people when they tell you don't drive off the cliff. Liberty, the right or power to do as one pleases. Yeah. Freedom is a fundamental human right, allows individuals to pursue their goals and live authentically, if you're lucky. The specific meaning and extent of freedoms can vary upon the culture, historic, yada yada. This looks like you're cutting and pasting stuff. Freedom in America is a farce, a falsehood, a fake myth. It's all money-oriented and military country-minded, not family-oriented. Thank you for your opinion. I'll cut and paste the entire thing below in the description.